Paying for a car as a teen. Now this is something that comes out of nowhere. Like, no one tells you how expensive it actually is to become a driver. I was having driving lessons and Jesus, they're expensive. Especially when you're doing weekly. Like, to be fair, I managed to get them for £25 an hour, which is a lot cheaper than most instructors. But it's still mad. But luckily my mum helped me with those. Then you gotta pass this theory test, and it's like a £5 for the revision app, and then £23 for the theory test. And once that's done, you gotta pass the practical driving test, and that's 62 quid to do. But the thing is with these tests is that if you fail, you gotta keep trying, obviously, because you gotta pass your test, but you gotta keep paying that price. So some people in my year were like failing 3 or 4 times before they passed, and they must have had their wallets just drained. Eventually, for me, the time came, and I passed my test first try, and mum was like, let's start car shopping. Luckily, my mum paid for my first car, but I know a lot of people have to fork it out for themselves. My first car was a Fiat Punto, but the catch is the fact that it was bright orange, and to be fair, I found it really funny at first, and I was a bit hesitant, but eventually I just fell in love with it. And to be fair, the price of the car was really cheap for what it is. Like, we managed to haggle it for like 900 quid, which was great. And to be fair, I don't know how I would have afforded it if my mum didn't help me there, because I was 17 at the time, and like, what 17-year-old has a grand spare? We took the car home and I was so excited to drive it and I couldn't wait, but the insurance is a thing. We quickly set it up and we'd actually been getting quotes already, but I had to wait. Just by letting the policy start a week later, it ended up actually being 500 quid less. It was a no-brainer, but probably the most painful wait I've ever had. My insurance ended up being like a black box policy because it gets the price down. It ended up being like about 130 a month. So it wasn't like extortionate, but how the hell was I paying for this when I'm only working 1 day a week alongside sick form? I'd probably say that insurance is one of the biggest gatekeepers to driving. For some people, like, their insurance ends up just being more than they actually paid for their car, especially for the people who want like a more high-end car for the first car because they think they're cool. And it turns out like the ones with the nice cars are actually suffering the most. With all those paid, we're ready to get on the road. Or are we? Have you paid your road tax? Like, think things like road tax. What even is it? Like, I get it, yeah, the road costs money, but it's just another thing you gotta pay to drive. It actually just gets so out of hand. Now we're on the road, been driving for a few days, and I hear a beep and my fuel's low, so let's go fill that up. Now I passed my test in 2022, and this is the time when one country invaded another, held the oil, and it drastically increased the fuel prices, and they were like £1.88, I think, at one point. And it made a full tank of fuel about 70 quid. And I had to do this pretty frequently. It's an absolute joke. Petrol is like a proper extreme version of getting a toy when you're a kid and the batteries aren't included. Another thing I gotta talk about is the MOT test. Like, I remember when my friend told me he had to go take his car for an MOT. And at this point, like, I wasn't driving, we were sitting in sick form. When he said that, I was like howling of laughter. Like, what do you mean you're going for an MOT test? Like, isn't that what like your 40-year-old dad goes to do? But yeah, like, you've got to do it every year, and it's usually about 60 quid, and people tend to get their car serviced at the same time, and that's like 150 as well. The last time I got my MOT done, it came back and they said my exhaust had broken. I was like, oh my god. And the whole thing had to be replaced. It ended up just costing me like an extra 200 quid, which is just mental. Taking your car to the garage is actually like the worst day of the year. Like, you always come back with an empty wallet and sometimes a more broken car, because some garages scam people to get more money out of them. Like, especially like young women who know nothing about cars, because they know they can and make the customers pay. And if you are watching, just be careful about that, because it's actually really corrupt. But yeah, so overall, you got to pay for the lessons, the tests, the actual car, the insurance, the road tax, the MOT test, any breakages that happen, and continuously pay for the fuel. I knew paying for all the stuff to drive was a lot, but now I'm looking at all this stuff together in one go. I don't even know how I've got by driving for the last 3 years. Driving is actually the biggest rip-off for real.